evening, intuitives, and welcome all of you that are new to the channel. Thank you everybody for pushing me over 2,000 subscribers. It's a nice little milestone to make, and I particularly like all the comments that are being left, knowing that the channel helps, motivates me to keep doing this, because that's the whole reason, I do it. I'm obviously not doing it for the money. I'm not making much, but tank of gas a month helps. So, topic I want to get into today is another narcissism topic. It's something I've alluded to in my ENFJ videos, because ENFJs are the most common target of what I'm about to talk about, and the bros before hoes crowd will probably call for me to be burned at the stake after I get into this topic. But after all, I don't wear the sigil of Lilith because it looks cool. I wear it because I am a initiated Lilithan witch, despite the fact that I'm male, so that should tell where my loyalties lie. Anyway, topic I want to get into today is about why do older narcissists chase younger women. Now, this is usually a specific age group. Normally, this would be, and it's not every time you see the situation, I'll get into that, but I saw a lot of this with my female friends and friends of friends and acquaintances in my younger years, like right after university. So the most common time you will see this, although it is not exclusive to it, would be men in their mid to late 30s to perhaps early 40s chasing women early 20s to mid 20s, like 21 to like 26. Narcissistic men. And they tend to chase specific types of women in this age group, and not just pretty, although that certainly is part of it, but there's more to their motivations than that. So, the narcissistic men of this middle age group, they are most commonly the never married type. One could even say, those that exhibit at least symptoms of what is known as Peter Pan syndrome, So they're half of it is they never grew up, and they want to prove I can still get the young girls, and I'm still in my prime and nothing's changed, and they're all about the flashy car, and they drink a lot, and basically trying to live as if they're still 22. And also the midlife crisis aspect is coming in. Now, again, most of these men never married. To be fair, a lot of them don't have any kids either. It's about trying to hold on to their past. But it's more than that. Because the women their age, now, of course, they'll play the wall comes for everybody. I can still pull young girls and flash my cash and all that. But it's also the women their age have wised up and are onto them. They know what they are. They've encountered men like this before. They can spot them, if not on the first date, by the second date. And also, the women in around their same age, most of them don't have any time for these games and are looking for something real. Now, I will make this disclaimer. There are, younger women of that age group that simply are legitimately looking for, sugar daddies, and that's fine. What I'm talking about and exposing is when there's lies and deceptions from a narcissistic man. A older man, narcissistic or not, to be honest, and a younger woman that are coming together, and from the moment they start talking, they're both saying they want something casual, short term. That's not what I'm exposing. That's not what I'm saying is wrong, because they're being honest from the beginning about what they're looking for and the bond that they're forming. There's no deception there. Okay? That's my disclaimer. I'm not talking about that. Now we're going to get into what I am talking about. So, this older guy will look for usually the early mid 20 something female who's quite naturally beautiful, but doesn't really know it. She doesn't have that much confidence. Like, she thinks she's cute, but she doesn't really notice all the attention she gets. The sweetheart type, kind of dorky. Honestly, ENFJs, you're the biggest. You're not the only targets, but you're the biggest targets for these guys. And usually these women will have not had that many boyfriends. They're typically the type that, dated the same guy or maybe two guys throughout their university years. They're relationship type girls, my type. So, but these narcissistic men see that as a target for a couple reasons. One, because they probably, have only had a couple boyfriends. They're not that exposed to male game, typically because the men they did date probably started relatively young, and there's that awkward teenage thing and first love, and high school, university, you're not really in the real world. You know what I'm talking about if you're old enough to know. So there's that factor, less experience, less body count, and it's a trophy for them. It's a trophy to be like young, pretty, hasn't been with that many guys. I can strut around and be like, look what I got, guys, look what I got. The other reason why they go after women of this particular type, again, the archetype is ENFJs, because they have trouble saying no. And as we all know, narcissists are all about pushing boundaries. And especially sexual narcissists, they get off on exploiting people sexually, particularly when the person they're exploiting is expressing signs that they don't like what's going on, like they're crying and they're hesitant, but at the same time they're being submissive. Oh, that's better than Viagra for these guys. So there's that aspect as well. That's why they'll target these type of women. And here's where the deception comes in. The deception comes in because typically the women that fall into this group are not the casual fling, one night stand, hookup type. They're the relationship type. And in their mind, and this is what the narcissistic middle-aged man is projecting, the 20-something female is thinking, wow, most of the men my age, all they want to do is get laid. They're just looking to get laid, looking for something casual. Because most men at that age are. I mean, the men that aren't like that at that age are, well, men like me, INFJs, but an early 20-something INFJ is going to be quite introverted and really going to have a hard time making the first move, particularly, because the overthinking is going to overwhelm them. And especially if that young INFJ is also usually a target for narcissists too, to try to keep him down, and his self-confidence at that age is probably in the toilet, like mine was. So there's that factor playing in as well. So here comes this older narcissistic guy. They're usually like upper middle class or perhaps wealthy, and in her mind she's thinking, well, this guy's older, he's had his fun, he wants something real. And the fact that he's older, he wants something real because he wants something that, after a couple years, get married and have a family, because that may not be, at least not easy with a woman his age, especially if I want to take my time, really get to know each other, be engaged for a while. Girls, you know this feel. So that's the game that the narcissistic man is spouting. And he knows what this 20-something woman is looking for. And of course, he's trying to emulate, wear the mask of what she's looking for. And in her mind, it's like, well, this makes sense. This guy's older, he's mature, he's, moderately successful or perhaps very successful. And, he's ready for something real. He knows who he is. Whereas a man her own age may not know, and, or may not be able to express who he really is. Young INFJs. So there's that factor that plays in. But the reality of it is the narcissistic man views her only as a trophy. Typically, when a young 20-something female falls for a narcissistic male of this age, the relationship usually lasts around 6 months, perhaps up to a year. Rarely does it last any longer because, well, the fun's over after that. He's at that point, he has pushed her boundaries as much as they can be pushed. He's gotten his gratification, his narcissistic supply from her, and he discards her. You see this with famous men that even have rules that they don't date women over the age of 25. And they rely, of course, on their money and status to do this, because some of them, while, honestly, they were quite the sex symbol in their youth now have dad bods, have given up. It's all about their money and status. And, you know, a lot of people are very materialistic, and that's enough. That's part of the hunt for these narcissistic guys, is they get off on convincing these women that are not materialistic, that want something real. You know, it's them working their game too, because they're convincing someone that they're someone they're not. They're playing a character, and they get better every time. And that's another advantage of them chasing these younger women, is that, you know, their lack of dating experience. Because as I said, most of them, they encounter this guy usually right after they break up with like their quote unquote college sweetheart, you know, the guy that she dated through most, if not all, of university, but then it didn't work out because work, and they live in different places. And, you know, usually the relationship fails due to the adaptation from the university world, which isn't the real world, to the real world, and being 23 and broke and working 70 hours a week. I mean, that's what happened. That's how I lost my college girlfriend. But they prey on that. You know, these narcissistic men prey on that, because that's their opportunity to swoop in and be the, you know, the fully grown up, mature, ready to settle down older guy who's also successful, who can not only be everything she wants, but also be financially secure. But again, he's playing a game. Now, the women eventually catch on to this, but sadly, it's after the damage has been done, and then the narcissistic guy will play the, like, you'll never have better than me shit. And, you know, some of them will even be vicious enough to be like, well, no one will want you after what I did to you. That's the really sick ones. So this is something that sadly happens, and women need to be on, you know, their guard about. Again, it's not necessarily, you know, every relationship between an older man and a younger woman. I myself briefly was with a woman 15 years younger than me, but that was her pursuing me, and I at first pushed her away because of the age difference, and kept talking to her, and turned out, yeah, she undeniably was my type, and other people called me out for being a hypocrite, and she was also a witch, and, you know, basically called me a boomer for treating her as less of an adult than I am. And then she, you know, metaphorically stuck a knife in my chest because her friends didn't like the idea that we were getting close, despite the fact that they were the ones who pushed for it in the first place. But just using that as an example to say that it's not always the case when you see an older man with a younger woman. I mean, in my case, you know, there are men in their mid-30s who have never been married, and, you know, don't have a high body count, but that's because we're demisexuals, and, you know, we only go for real connections, and they're getting harder and harder to find. But in the case of this narcissistic middle-aged man who's never been married, they typically, you know, they're the new girl every couple months kind of guy, but who could just never find the right one, and, you know, they just keep trying and trying. But this young 20-something, of course, is what they've always been looking for, but have never been able to find. Yeah, funny how they're all around the same age, and they all last, the relationships all last around the same time. It's almost like you're working from a playbook, because they are. So be aware of that. You know, this seems to be a phenomenon typically for women like 21 to like 26. You know, it's not a hard set, but broadly speaking. And yeah, it's something that a lot of women sadly don't know it's happening until it's too late. Hopefully that's not the case now, because when I was in my early 20s, narcissistic abuse and narcissism wasn't spoken about nearly as much as it is now. So I hope, you know, with channels way more successful than mine and me doing my itty bitty part, that word is getting out, and stuff like this, you know, these tactics are being exposed, and that these narcissists are rightfully being exposed for who they really are and how they treat people, and, you know, they can never wear a mask again. At least that's my goal. So, you know, yes, women of that age group who fit that criteria, be aware, trust your intuition, because, you know, like I said, ENFJs, you're the biggest targets for this. You have intuition. It's not your primary function, it's your secondary function, but it's still pretty strong, and you got to trust it. And you also got to be able to say no. So, and if you have an INFJ friend, male or female, who's going danger, 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 listen to them, because even if they don't know how to trust their intuition, it's still right 85% of the time. So be wary of these tactics. I hope this video was helpful. Thank everybody who's a new subscriber to the channel. Thank everybody who's been with this channel for a while. If you're new, please check out my older videos. Just because YouTube doesn't recommend them doesn't mean they're not on par with the ones that get a couple thousand views when I post them. So yeah, check them out. YouTube, the algorithm doesn't like me very much. I'm bad. So remember, trust your intuition. If you think somebody's lying and playing a character, trust your intuition. See what you can do to try to get them to slip up or to contradict their lies. And remember, there's no integrity in trying to save someone when really they're not trying to be saved. They're trying to play a character. You're not going to change, a narcissist. They are who they are. They don't just like who they are. They love who they are. And you're just a short-term fling for them. And that's the harsh reality, because the only person a narcissist truly loves is themselves.